or what I'm doing is legal. This is why I believe I'll receive justice in the higher court.
Hit more to right and right center than the left. Oh, it is good! He did it! He did it!
It doesn't matter what your background is and where you come from. If you have dreams and you have goals, and that's all that really matters.
But there's only one Usain Bolt.
I owe, a lot to Charlie.
The freedom of expression that the entire world could see.
When you black, it's not a movement, it's a lifestyle. This is who we are.
To be fearless every day. I think that it inspires more than just gymnasts. It inspires everyone. People that can't even do cartwheels are inspired by what she does every day.
What you achieved in Rio, Simone, redefined what it means to be an Olympian in your chosen sport.
Greatness can be measured in medals and rings, trophies and belts, times and streaks. Sometimes it doesn't need measuring at all. It's a truth held to be self-evident. The kind of greatness reserved for a precious few. A number that includes Simone Biles. Simone Biles has ascended to greatness battling a high degree of difficulty. Not only in her sport, but also in her personal life. As a child, she entered the foster care system until she and younger sister Adria were adopted by her grandparents.
Ron and Nellie as her parents.
It was the best decision we've ever made because these girls, both of them, have enriched our lives.
Gymnastics provided a much-needed outlet.
I discovered I had ADHD at a very young age. If you saw me when I was probably 6 years old, I had it running all over the place. But as I got older, it got a little bit harder, so gymnastics was nice to go to because you can kind of be crazy and you do a lot of skills, so then you really have to focus on that.
But even that refuge was not without pain. In 2018, Biles announced she had been a victim of sexual abuse, perpetrated by former U.S. team doctor Larry Nassar. The revelations thrust the young athlete into the middle of a so very personal, yet so very public, high-stakes issue, with life-changing ramifications.
Take your time.
Simone Biles' greatness is best understood within the vocabulary of her own sport. The woman's artistic gymnastics code of points names elements after the individual who first executed the maneuver at a major event. Biles achieved 4 of these by the age of 21. They span 3 separate pieces of apparatus. On the floor, the Biles 2, a backward triple twisting double tuck salto. It's rated a J for difficulty, making it the most challenging move in her sport. On the vault, the Biles is the joint most difficult skill to pull off. And while the Biles is the highest rated element on the balance beam, it is regarded as undervalued by the code. That's to deter other competitors from trying to land the element because it carries such a high level of risk of serious injury to the gymnast. In other words, barely out of her teens, Biles conquered gymnastics to such an extent, administrators were warning her rivals they had to put their lives on the line to keep up.
That's on them, that's not on me. That's on them. They had an open-end code of points, and now they're mad that people are too far ahead in excelling.
Biles' superhuman routines means she doesn't always have to nail every component to win.
She's so good by far because she does a lot of difficult skills. Her difficulties is unbelievable.
At the 2018 World Championships, for example, she won the gold medal in the all-around final by an enormous margin of 1.7 points, despite falling on both the vault and the balance beam.
I don't think I'm unbeatable, but I guess sometimes people see it that way because I haven't lost even if I fall.
5 gold medals at the 2019 World Championships took her haul to 19 golds, more than double the next best in history, while her tally of 25 medals overall is also a clear record. The quadrennial cycle means Biles' Olympic record is not so decisive. The 2012 Games arrived a year too soon for the emerging prodigy. But at Rio 2016, she arrived as one of the most high-profile competitors at the Games and left with 4 golds, a bronze, and the honor of carrying the U.S. flag at the closing ceremony. She was just 19, and with the retirement of Michael Phelps after Rio, was the most famous active Olympian in the USA build-up to 2020. She announced she would compete through one more Olympiad and retire after Tokyo. When the Games were postponed, she initially considered immediate retirement. But at the 2021 U.S. National Championship, she won her 7th national all-around title by a cavernous 4.7 points and pressed ahead to Japan. But upon arrival for those most unusual games, it had all become so hard to bear. The various internal and external forces at play, broken toes, disruption from the pandemic, the aftershocks of the Larry Nassar abuse, and the failings of USA Gymnastics to support her and other victims, all combined to take a toll. With her mental health suffering, she was unable to maintain awareness of her body position during her routines, a psychological problem she described as the twisties. She still finished on top in the team and all-around individual qualifications, but made several big errors. Having already pushed the boundaries of gymnastics beyond what authorities considered safe for others, her daring routines had suddenly become downright dangerous for her. So Biles chose not to subject herself to the possibility of serious injury, withdrawing from the team final. She also later withdrew from the individual all-around, plus the vault, floor, and uneven bars. It was a gesture that normalized mental health in sport, often a taboo subject. Everybody had an opinion on her decision, and while there was some criticism, there was also overwhelming support for her courage to admit that she was struggling. Buoyed by the sport, Biles decided to compete in the final of the beam on the final day of the gymnastics competition. She wound back the degree of difficulty in her elements and claimed a bronze medal to go with the silver she earned in the team event for her part in qualifying. Of the 7 Olympic medals she owns, the latest is the one she cherishes the most. She returned to the U.S. to chaotic scenes, and less than a month later, the full weight of the NASA horrors were laid bare when Biles and other U.S. gymnasts appeared before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee investigating the failings of the FBI in not bringing NASA to justice earlier.
Because you are guilty, aren't you?
I sit before you today to raise my voice so that no little girl must endure what I, the athletes at this table, and the countless others who needlessly suffered under Nasser's guise of medical treatment. We suffered and continue to suffer because no one at FBI, USAG, or the USOPC did what was necessary to protect us. We have been failed, and we deserve answers.
In December 2021, USA Gymnastics, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and their insurers agreed to a $380 million settlement with the hundreds of survivors of Nasser's abuse, including Biles. It hardly needs stating that this young woman's athletic genius is without peer. Nor does it require explanation as to how inspirational her rise has been to aspiring young athletes of color. What completes the Biles package is her leadership in confronting the horrors of sexual abuse and the challenges of mental health. Put all this hardship, this talent, this anger, this confusion, this bravery together, and the result, 4 foot 8 inches of wonder. Anyone who says sport and politics shouldn't mix wasn't there the day George Weah met Nelson Mandela. 1996, and South Africa was hosting the biennial football championship, the Africa Cup of Nations. Mandela was in his second year as the president of South Africa, idolized not just at home, but throughout the continent as the slayer of apartheid. Weah, the striker considered by many the greatest African footballer in history, was making his first appearance in the Cup of Nations, his homeland Liberia never having qualified before. Known as King George, Weah had arrived in Johannesburg to join the Liberian squad just days after becoming the first and still the only African player to be named FIFA World Player of the Year after his spectacular 1995 with PSG in Ligue 1 and AC Milan in Serie A. He had also already become the only African to win the Ballon d'Or. And despite the minor status of Liberia at the tournament, he was the individual headline act and spoke of his wish to shake hands with President Mandela.
It's not only me. All my friends on the team want to meet the president. Just want to take photo with him to keep it as a souvenir. Because we heard so much of Mandela and we follow the history, you know, all the difficulties and all the good times today. I hope they're going to arrange for me to just shake hands with Mandela.
What Weah didn't realize was that Mandela was just as keen to meet the world's best footballer. And so even though the Liberian team was quickly bundled out of the tournament, the two men got their wish.
It's a real honor for me to be able to welcome George. And he is the pride of Africa, indeed, the entire sports world. And the honors that he has received makes even state presidents feel that it's a special privilege to welcome him. And it's an exciting moment indeed. And I hope that you don't feel humiliated by coming here to shake hands with me.
It's an honor to be with the greatest president in the world. And to come to South Africa, we came to play, but for me, it was always my dream to be here, to shake hands with our dear president. And today, I'll be the happiest man in the world today if I go back. I shook the president hand. And thanks for everything. Thanks for inspiring the youth of Africa. And I wish him good luck. I wish him success. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
What wasn't clear at the time was just what the two men were discussing once the cameras were turned away. At a time when Liberia was ripping itself apart with civil war, Mandela urged Weah to pursue his humanitarian and political interests, using sport to spread the word. George Weah wasn't just the inspiration for the emergence of great African footballers like Samuel Eto'o, Yaya Toure, and Didier Drogba. Fast, strong, willing to work hard, and supremely skilled with tactical nous. He was the whole package, along with the arrival out of South America of Brazilian Ronaldo. The world of football realized there was a new prototype for strikers. He helped change the game. One of 13 children, raised in a working-class area of Liberia's capital city, Monrovia, Weah was just embarking on his life as an international footballer when civil war began to rip his homeland apart. Between 1987 and 2003, Liberia, on the west coast of Africa, engaged in 2 civil wars at the cost of 250,000 lives. And while Weah was wowing the world, first with Monaco under his mentor Arsene Wenger, then PSG, then AC Milan, he never forgot the plight of his homeland, using his fame to pressure the rest of the world to help. At first, he helped financially, even funding the national team with uniforms and travel expenses. Their very place at the 1996 Cup of Nations was down to him. But after meeting with Mandela, he upped the ante. This AC Milan press conference a few months later took a political turn.
Children dying every day, and women and children, you know, it's very difficult for anybody to accept. We Liberians, we are not willing to reconcile and willing to unite. The only thing that can happen to Liberia now is for the United Nations and the Western world to impose on Liberia for the children to stop dying, because it's getting worse and it's too deplorable, and we cannot no longer accept anymore.
Weah became a UN Goodwill Ambassador and a vocal campaigner against racism in football while continuing to rack up the honors. He was the highest-ranked African player in FIFA's greatest 100 footballers. He retired in 2003, and when the Second Liberian Civil War ended, he stood for president at the country's first democratic election in 2005. Though idolized by his people, he was still a raw politician and fell just short. He stood for vice president in 2011 and lost again. But in 2014, he ran for election to the Senate and won convincingly. By now a seasoned politician, he announced another run for the highest post in the Liberian government at the 2017 elections, and won. In his maiden speech as president of Liberia, he announced he was taking a 25% cut in his salary. Nelson Mandela died in 2013, so he never saw the heights to which his protege rose. But it's easy to imagine that when they met in 1996, the president of South Africa and the future president of Liberia would have agreed on Mandela's famous quote.
Sport has the power to change the world.
You could call it the journey of hope. Women's football has waged a long battle for respect and equality, particularly in the countries where the men's game has been so deeply rooted in national culture. It's been difficult, but things are changing for the better, thanks to the energy and resilience of the pioneers, epitomized by the determination of former England international and coach, Hope Powell. Powell has busted stereotypes her whole life. At 12, she was banned from her junior team because she was a girl. By 16, she was in the England national team. At 31, she was vice captain of the England team when the Football Association called her in and offered her a promotion, not to captain, but to coach. Powell became not just the first woman to coach England's women's team, but the first black coach of either national team. She also coached Great Britain's women's football team to the quarterfinals on home soil at the London 2012 Olympics.
The fact that we're on home soil, the opportunity to play at Wembley for women's football is a fantastic opportunity, a fantastic honour. And it will, as I said, it will really help us raise the profile once again for women's football and hopefully continue our profile and move the game further forward in this country. So really, really honoured and really pleased to be here today.
Under Powell, England made 2 Women's World Cup quarterfinals in 2007 and 2011, and the final of the 2009 European Championship. Though her tenure ended in 2013 without a major trophy, England's women had come from a long way back. Because it was not until 1972 that the FA rescinded their ban on women playing on English Football League grounds. In 2017, when Brighton Hove Albion was elevated to the Women's Super League, Powell was appointed manager and has overseen the club's rise from minnows to contenders. She's been a powerful voice for close on 40 years, and she's not finished by a long way. For women's football, hope springs eternal.